Well, I have Wendell Burrows with me today, and he is a Bigfoot researcher. He has a group that often goes out and they do some really hardcore boots on the ground kind of research. Wendell, I understand that you just got back from a really successful research trip. So why don't you just tell me about that?
Yeah, over the December 6th, 7th, and 8th, we had groups come in from Texas and had a guy that was from Oregon and everything. We had a successful Bigfoot research and investigation. We all met there and set up camp and heard vocals and tried out some new equipment. We actually got to make it all the way back to what we area we call Castle Rock. Got some good photographs and videos. That's actually where we found a trackway and went from there. We followed it. We got into a new area that was were below the gauntlet that we call and found some new shelters and caves that's about 20 to 30 feet long and deep where they had been staying. Uh, Unfortunately, what we found was that there was only one big one. We don't know if it was a male or female, and one little one that was actually staying in the area. Uh, don't know if because it was so dry here in the summer that the others had moved off, or we just hit it at a bad time. But we got we put out hair sample collectors, which is Velcro that's long enough to stick onto a tree. We're hoping to get hair samples from these individuals, and we just was an overall good investigation.
Well, it sounds like it. Now, how many people did you say joined you?
There was 13 of us.
13 people coming from
That
quite a ways away to join you in the. How, you were gone like 3 nights?
Yeah, 2 nights and 3 days.
2 nights and 3 days. Now, I've heard from a few of those people that joined you, and they had some really nice encounters. It sounded like, or at least some evidence found that this Castle Rock area. What does that look like?
It's a top of a mountain, and normally on a mountain you have a where it's just flat on top or rounded, or if you find bluffs or something, it's along a bluff line. But this is actually just on top of the mountain. It's huge boulders that's sticking up out of the mountain, and forms from a distance. You look at it; it looks like a castle sitting up there on top of the mountain, and all there's two valleys on either side of it, and we actually found a, a cave structure there. It looks like it's just one big giant solid rock that's uh, hollowed and got a cave into it, and it's just sitting there on top of the mountain. That's weird. And that's actually where we started finding the one larger individual's tracks was about 18 inches. We got pictures of it and everything, and as it veered down, we ended up finding a smaller track, and it was kind of like they was together. We might have actually pushed them off of the Castle Rock, but anyway, the tracks looked fresh. That's what I was getting at, and they was like traveling like 100 foot, 100 to 150 foot apart as they was moving. The tracks was always shadowing either the little one was following the big one or something like, or they was working in tandem as they left the area.
Did you go inside the cave?
Yeah, we had videos of it and everything. I didn't personally, but Jacob, our youngest guy that was able to get up there, went in and got videos of it, and he's from the Drunken Cryptids. They're a pretty cool group of guys that's getting out and starting uh, Bigfoot explorations, and they got a podcast. So it was pretty good to have them working with us and helping us out. Uh, Unfortunately, I'm 53, and and I just can't get up on them precarious places and everything like that. So I was at the bottom, which is about 200 feet from where he was at, and communicating with him on the radio, and he was sending us video back of it and everything.
What did they find inside the cave?
Well, it was just an area that had been well used, and this is in the middle of the national forest. And like I said, it's hard accessible, so everything was just packed down and clean, and you could tell that something had been staying in there and everything. Uh, and walking around it, you know how there's leaves blew up everywhere else on everything, but all that area there was nothing. But it was just packed down dirt.
Well, something was staying there. Was there anything that indicated for sure it was a Bigfoot staying in there?
Not at that particular point, but as we he went around to the back sides, and that's where we started finding the Bigfoot tracks as it went off the backside. So uh, we assume or presume that that's where it had been staying, but something had been staying in there anyway, and that's
Sure.
where we found the track and started tracking it from there.
Yeah, that's odd that a cave would be up at the top of a mountainous area. Has anyone explored kind of how deep or where that cave goes?
Well, that's as far as it goes back in there is about 30 to 40 feet. So, um, I mean, it was just used as a shelter, and it's odd that it's right on top of the mountain. And it's just like I said, normally you don't find a rock or anything sitting on the top. You find it on a bluff line or something, but this is on there's a bluff line below it, you know, about 300 feet, but up there it's just a huge rock sitting there. It actually looks like something's actually carved this into this rock. It's you know, where it's flaked off and everything.
It looked like it's
So
been there a long
I don't know how
time. Like,
it got there. It's a long time, yeah.
yeah, well, that's interesting. How long did you follow the trackway? How far did it go?
We went all together uh, all the way down the valley line is about 2 miles off and on. You know, we'd pick it up and then lose it, and then we'd pick it up again. So
And is this an area that you go to very often? This particular Castle Rock area?
this is only the third time that we'd actually been to Castle Rock. There's two big creeks and a little creek to get there, and it's only way to get. It was an old wagon road at one time, but it's growed up where you can't get through there. So only way to get to it is by walking, and it's about 2 miles to get to Castle Rock from where we had our base camp at. And every time we go is usually in December or February. And the other times that we've tried to make it there, either the creek's been up too high, or one time we had good weather and one of our guys fell on a rock crossing the creek, and we had to carry him out, so we didn't get to make it to Castle Rock that time. So always there's been something happen to where we couldn't make it there. But like I said, this is the third time that we've made it there and actually got a good video of everything up there and know more about what's past Castle Rock. Off the next holler, we got the video of looking down in the holler, and that's going to be our next area to explore when we have more team members come in that's physically fit. That's a lot of our problem is finding people that's willing to get out and can go. That can do that kind of stuff. And I knew something we just got that will help. We got the drone that follows you. So we're hoping to use that in that next ravine or holler, which is about 3 miles long. Looking at it, so that's a big area that nobody's been for over 100 years. So
How far is it from this Castle Rock, this hollow that you're looking at exploring?
uh, probably less than a half a mile from Castle Rock. Off the backside is that whole holler that we're gonna explore on the next trip that we go on.
Did that trackway by chance lead like down toward the hollow area?
Well, it actually shadowed went. It's like on there's a hollow on the front side of Castle Rock, and then in that hollow that's on the back side, it went on the front side of Castle Rock, but the same direction, which is south. So as far as being in the other hollow, no, but all it had to do is just go over the mountain. And like I said, we tracked it for a long ways, but it ended up coming up on night, so turned around, went back to our base camp to set up for night activities.
My name is Steve Bazdar. I live in Azle, Texas, which is a suburb of Fort Worth. I moved here about 3, 4 years ago from Virginia, where I spent 39 years. I lived there before that. I lived in Cleveland, Ohio. Uh, I've had a fascination with Bigfoot and the cryptids probably since elementary school. And I remember watching everything. Remember the show In Search of with Leonard Nimoy back in the 70s?
Mm-hmm.
And they would have stuff on there. I love that. And I remember checking out a book about Bigfoot in elementary school when I went up to my librarian and I said, I'm going to go find this guy here when I grow up. And she looked at me through her 70s horn rimmed glass like I was crazy or something. But so I've always had a fascination with this, and I've kind of kept it, under hat a little bit, and then during my 20s and 30s and 40s, I really didn't say much about it. And then probably in my early 50s, I said to my wife at the time, this is what happened. That we were, I had moved to Virginia, lived in Manassas, which is in Prince William County, which is about 35 miles southwest of Washington, D.C. And our youth leader had a family home in the panhandle of West Virginia somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where in West Virginia now. And we went out there one weekend and we were on a hike in the woods. And all of a sudden, I hear this smell. And I'm like, oh my God, what is that? And the best described the smell, it was like rotten garbage, rotten eggs, wet dog. And it's that kind of smell like you ever came upon a skunk that just sprayed. Now that smell sticks to your nostrils. This is how this smell was. And he looked at me and said, we got to get out of here with a concerned look on his face. And I didn't think much of it then till, years after that happens. Oh my gosh, I think I had a Bigfoot encounter. Um, but
Do you know if that area has had any reports of Bigfoot or if anyone else has seen anything there or had any kind of an experience like that in that area?
I'm not because I'm not exactly sure the area. I'm not sure if there is. I know West Virginia, there is a lot of reports out of West Virginia of Bigfoot activity. But for him to say that, he's probably either encountered something or said something. He didn't say anything to me.
Yeah, so you just got out of there, you left, and did you tell people about it then, or you didn't tell anyone until much later on?
I didn't tell anybody too much later on. When I was looking into it, when I was first married, my wife goes, "There's no such thing as Bigfoot. That's crazy." Yada yada yada. And as anything goes, we were married for 30 years, and as anything goes, after a long time, you kind of say, okay, well, maybe he is telling the truth or something. And I told my daughter what his. My daughter was like, well, okay, but this every time I go out now on a drive or I'm in the woods, I'm always looking for sign. I'm looking for fresh trees broken. I'm looking for tracks. I'm looking for rock formation and stuff like that. So you're the first person really outside of my wife at the time, my daughter, I've told about this.
Well, have you found anything out there, any structures, any kind of unusual, anything that you could question when you're out there in the woods?
Not really, but I kind of got an untrained eye. I mean, I've seen on TV the stick formations and structures. I've never seen anything like that, or rock formations, of rocks being piled up. I've seen that on TV, like on the Finding Bigfoot or some of the other uh, shows like that. But no, I really haven't run into anything, and I haven't been out in the woods in a while.
When we were filming Byways of Bigfoot, I remember along the river there was this stack of rocks. And it was pretty tall. I mean, it was maybe, 2 feet tall or something like that. And I remember questioning that with the group of researchers I was with and saying, look, this doesn't look normal to me. And they all kind of argued the fact that no, human created that, and very likely they did. But just a short distance from there, over by the cliffs, we did find a couple of pieces of evidence. We found, a track that was right beneath a tree twist and break, and there wasn't anything else around there that looked like there was any kind of tree damage, and this wasn't a rotten tree at all. So, that was really close. And then later on, some people told us that they had actually seen a Bigfoot back in that area by the cliffs. But these rocks were stacked up about 2 feet tall. It didn't make
Wow.
the cut of the film because, there again, all of my other researchers were saying that they really felt like that was human made instead of Bigfoot made. But, maybe it wasn't. So have you seen any of those rock formations like that, or stacked rocks like that?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't seen anything like that. And I haven't seen really any. I've seen tree breaks, but I'm not. I don't go in the woods much, so I couldn't tell you if that was a fresh tree break. I mean, I guess I could if it was really fresh, but I really, as far as seeing stuff like put together like kind of like a teepee, if you will, I haven't seen anything like that. No.
So you do most of your research just, armchair research and watching the shows, reading books, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I just finished a book called Mysterious Creatures, Cryptid Encounters, Bigfoot by G.D. Pickering. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
I haven't heard of that one, I don't think, but what was it about that book that you felt like was interesting?
I like reading about other people's encounters about Bigfoot, and it has several encounters in here, and it's going back from from the '70s all the way up to the current time. But I've always liked reading. I've been on with the BFRO website. I enjoy reading the sighting reports on those, especially the current ones. And there are a lot of people like my ex-wife who's still a skeptic, says there's no such thing. But I believe there is something out there. Whether alien or whether it's something else, I don't know, but there is something out there.
I did an interview with one person that lived just outside of Fort Worth, and I think they were fishing actually along a river just outside of the Fort Worth area, and something came along and started throwing rocks at them. And he stood up and was kind of defending his territory, the man that was fishing. And after that, we started seeing them quite often in that given area. And this was just really right outside of Fort Worth. It was right, not far from probably where you live, even though Fort Worth is a pretty large area, it might not be real close. But and from that point forward, after he had once had that sighting, that encounter with the rocks thrown at him, he began seeing them in a lot of other places as well. You've probably heard this, that once you have an encounter, sometimes it's easy for you to see again. I don't know if you're just acclimated at that point to be more aware of them. Do you think that this encounter that you had, or the smell that you experienced while hiking, makes you maybe a little bit more heightened to look for things and to be more aware?
It is. And like when I was married, we go on vacations, and my wife did most of the driving. And we driving on the interstate and through the woods and the open fields. I'd be looking out the woods. She goes, "What are you looking for?" And I'd say Bigfoot. And I'm always looking to see if I see anything. I work 3 12-hour shifts, so I leave for work at 3:30 in the morning. I commute to Dallas. So I go through some wooded areas on the way to work before I get in through Fort Worth and then down through Dallas. But I'm always looking, left to right, see if there's anything coming out of the onto the road from the roadsides. I'm looking in the ditches. And of course, when I get out, I have my nose to the air.
Yeah, exactly. Now I know that you're on a lot of the Bigfoot groups that I'm part of, and my Bigfoot group as well, Bigfoot Cryptid Midwest, because that's where I found you. But do you communicate with a lot of people that have had encounters?
No, I don't. No, I'm sure if I looked hard enough, I could find somebody that did.
Yeah,
But
there
no,
are a lot of people on there are a lot of people in my group that have actually had experiences. A lot of them, of course, have actually been on the show like you are. So in all of your reading about Bigfoot, do you think that they're somewhat human-like, or do you think that they're just a creature in the woods?
I think they're human like because um, they pick up rocks and throw to intimidate people. I guess to want them to say, "This is my territory, get out." Um, uh, they are seen by numerous people crossing roads in woods, down logging trails. So yeah, I think they're real. I really do. Um, uh, for
Yeah, I
this,
think
for
they're
as
real
many
too.
reports to come across the country as there is, and for someone to say it's not real, I would have to question that.
Yeah, I think they're real too. Now, whether they're human-like, I mean, that's still out. Nobody really knows for sure exactly what they are, but they seem intelligent. They seem to interact with people to some degree. I don't know if you've heard the Sierra sounds, but
Yes, I have. Yes,
those sounds say that they have a language. So, what did you think of the Sierra sounds?
I think they're a language. I think they try if they want to. They could try and communicate with us.
The Native American legends say that they used to have like a trade with them, and they did communicate. And sometimes the languages that people have heard have a lot of resemblance to Native American words. I even interviewed one person, I think it was maybe Montana or somewhere, where the natives there were actually able to interpret some of the language that they had recorded from Bigfoot and actually say, okay, this word in their native language was, this word, and
Wow.
be able to actually have some kind of communication in that sense. No one was actually standing there talking to Bigfoot, you understand. But this
You're
guy
right.
recorded what he heard, took it to this Native American, and that Native American then was able to translate for him. This
Okay.
this is kind of a groundbreaking moment because even the Sierra sounds, no one's been able to interpret what the words are, just that it sounds so much like the human language or the human, I guess, more like sentence structure and the inflections that they have, the ups downs. You can tell the mood, the type of thing they're trying to relay. But also the Sierra sounds was probably a family. There was that deep guttural sound of the male. The female also was there, a little bit higher pitch sound. It sounded like they were
Mhm.
arguing. And then that child, would chime in there and start talking as well. So, that was kind of like a golden piece of recording there back in the 70s.
Well, I think my most favorite recording, I think I've heard is the Ohio Bone. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
And yeah, exactly. Tell me what you thought of that.
That was, I don't, from the sound of that, I don't think anybody, a human, could replicate that sound in the woods. That was something that's not human.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was phenomenal. And more we're coming up with recordings of things and sounds, not and visuals. And so what do you think will happen if they ever really do have a body to analyze? What do you think that will happen?
Well, I think the government would cover it up.
I've heard that there have been bodies, discovered or
I have
found or
too. I've
whatever.
heard that too. I've read reports, not a lot, but I've read some reports where, that they either they shot a Bigfoot or they hit one with their car and it died, and the government came and took it and told them not to say a word to anybody.
There's so many Bigfoot that are seen along the side of a road and crossing a road that, and no doubtedly, at some point in time in history, there's probably been some accidents that have happened, and a Bigfoot it may have
Yeah,
been. It's just that's probably the most common sighting is along the side of a road.
yeah.
I know where I live, there was a man who this was back in the 70s, and he was It wasn't a real busy time of day, but there was a major road, a major highway, and he was on a side road just coming up and at a stop sign, looked over to his right, and there was a Bigfoot walking down the ditch and then crossed over into a wooded area. And nobody else was there. He couldn't prove that he saw it, but he was telling people about it. And then later on, we found out there were other farms around there where they were hearing unusual sounds. They thought it was Bigfoot. I even had a recording of one at one time way back. I don't think I have that anymore. When you move several times, you sometimes just lose track of the stuff that you
Right.
once had. So I don't think I have that anymore, but it was kind of an unusual sound. It was it was like a howl and kind of a barking howl. It was a repetitious kind of howl that I was hearing, very high pitched and very different from anything I've heard before. It wasn't a dog. It wasn't a dog.
Now the howl moan and the other voices that I have heard online, a dog could not replicate that, and a human could not replicate that.
Right, exactly. Do you think they use rivers, to travel, riverways to move around?
I think they do. I think they want to stay close to a fresh water source for drinking, maybe catching fish if they can. But yeah, I think they stay close to the river. It's probably for navigational purposes too.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to make your way down a river somehow than it is to, go through the heavy brush in the woods.
Right,
Yeah. And like you said, that, it's the water source as well as, fish source, possibly.
right.
A lot of people have seen them around water.
Yeah. Well, my bucket list is that one day, hopefully, I get to see one.
Yeah.
How I'll act when I do, I don't know, but that's why my bucket list is to see one. I'm always scanning the sides of the roads and the wood lines when I'm driving.
Exactly. Yeah. And right there with you. I haven't actually had set eyes on one. Saw a lot of evidence when we were filming Byways of Bigfoot, but certainly, would like to see one as well. Do you have many caves in your area?
Any what?
Caves?
Paid?
Caves, like underground caves.
Not that I know of. I've only lived in Fort Worth for about a year, so I'm not too much. Don't know much. I don't think that there could be, but I've heard that they've been known to live in caves too.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot too. Now, I don't really know that I've had a report of anyone seeing them in a cave or coming out of a cave or entering a cave. But there's suspicion that they may have a cave system underground where they can go from one area to another and pop out someplace else.
Yeah, and I think I've seen almost every Bigfoot movie ever made. I think my
Yeah.
favorite one is Exist.
Yeah. So have you seen in any of those movies, have you seen any of any evidence in caves?
Um, I think there's been one or two. What the names of those movies are, I don't know, but yeah, they've been some with caves.
Yeah, there's a lot of suspicion in that area. A lot of people, you're not an outdoorsman necessarily, or don't get out as often as you might like to, but a lot of people out there where they've seen a Bigfoot or near Bigfoot, they see orbs. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, but I've heard about that. I've heard about orbs or balls of light right before a Bigfoot or after a Bigfoot sighting.
Yeah. It seems commonplace now, whether they're actually correlated as being part of the same phenomena, it's hard to say. But it does seem like there are a lot of orbs in areas where Bigfoot exists. Yeah, big ones and small ones both.
Yeah,
Yeah, some people even equate the orbs as being, kind of intelligent, like they will respond to whatever they're saying to them, or do whatever they're saying. You tell them to leave, they leave, or whatever. So whether it is some type of an intelligence that's just a light orb or not, I don't know. Some people even believe that Bigfoot is an orb and then turns into a Bigfoot and then can turn back into an orb. Now that's pretty far-fetched, I realize, but
yeah,
it is something that people talk about.
yeah. I mean, there has to be some level of intelligence with a Bigfoot for them to remain unseen as much as they do. If there are that many of them, I mean, so there has to be some sort of intelligence factor out there that they can move stealthily through the forest.
Yeah, and the way they talk about their movement, it's almost like a gliding, almost like they're not even walking. It's such a
Right.
different.
Yeah. And I've read, so they cross 2-lane highways in 3 strides.
Yeah, exactly. Very quick. Or go up a mountainside, just, boom.
Yeah.
Just very, very fast. And a few people have talked about their connection with trees. Native Americans talked about them having a strong relationship, with the forest. They're keepers of the forest, so to speak. And one person even talked about their kind of a merging of the Bigfoot and a tree, like they blended back into a tree. That's there again, that's puts them more into the Fey realm rather than a creature.
Uh-huh.
So have you seen any UFOs in your lifetime?
No, never did. One time I told my wife we were looking out, and I'm looking out at my deck having a cigarette when I smoked at the time, and the International Space Station was floating overhead. I told her, "Oh my God, it's a UFO." And she looked, no, it's the International Space Station. So that was the closest to a UFO I ever saw.
Well, I can understand. So, well, I appreciate you coming on today and telling me your story about this smell, and I appreciate your enthusiasm
Well,
toward.
no problem. I've always had this enthusiasm. I read as much as I can about it, and I love. I've seen every issue, every episode of Finding Bigfoot probably 3 or 4 times. I watch Mountain Monsters. Like I said, I used to watch In Search Of when they had that on there, and there's other TV shows on cable that cover the topic.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm going to go ahead and let you go today. And I just really appreciate your coming on and telling the story.
Well,
Hope
thanks for listening.
hope to connect with you on with the Bigfoot group that I'm in, and keep up the good work, keep up the good curiosity.
Thanks, and if I come across anything else, you'll be the first I let know.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a good
Bye.
day. Bye bye.